change on the Moto Guzzie V7 III. Needs an oil change every 10,000 kilometers, or roughly 6,000 miles. I presume the other V7s are pretty much the same. It's a pretty easy job, but there are a few little tricks which I'll point out along the way. There's a few tools you're also going to need. You're going to need some sort of container to hold the waste oil. You're going to need both a 13mm socket wrench or a 13mm offset box wrench that has a little bent in it. And you need that because of the angle to the bolt. And also a 17mm socket or also wrench. You're also going to need a funnel. But that funnel is going to need some sort of tube attached to it, like this hose. I got about a 2-foot hose. The reason you're going to need this long tube on this end of this funnel is that here's where the drain plug is. You can see this head, it won't let it go in. If you go in, it's absolutely straight. So you're going to need to have some way to put that into here, get it up around that head, and then hold it up there. The oil only takes really about 2 quarts. I only put in 1.5 quarts when I first fill it up because there's always a little left in. And that way you can check it out once you get your 1.5 quarts in and unscrew it. Because this is also the dipstick. And you screw it in like that. Actually, they even make a special little tool for that, but it's really, I don't find necessary to the head shape. Take a look at how much it is. You can see it's right at the low level mark, which isn't too bad, but it was, you know, up here when I started. So I'm using a little bit of oil in 6,000 miles, but not much. So I really don't have to check it very often yet. Probably every 3,000 miles. Take a look. What you see there, the low mark is that line. It is not the bottom of the thing. The low mark is that line in the center. And full mark is right at the very top of the squashed out piece. Now there's less than ½ quart between the low mark and the full mark, which is where you're supposed to run it in between. So it's really awkward to try to refill this when you're on the road somewhere. So you're going to want to do this pretty much at home, especially if you only need to add a little bit. First of all, you can't get to it to add to it without its error. And the second thing, it would only take like ½ quart to get all the way from low to all the way full. You don't want to go more than full. So it's best to get an idea of how much oil you use and to do it before you go. First thing I do before I start taking the oil out is I actually check my oil level. And that's to see how much oil I burnt since the last oil change 6,000 miles ago. If I burnt a bit, then that means I have to check it more often. If I haven't burned any yet, then I probably check it like every 3,000 miles will be fine. You're also going to need some 1060 multi-weight oil. You need 2 quarts of that actually. That's all you need. And the oil filter. What I've got here is a UFI 2553-100. I understand that the Champion X2329, the High Flow HF178, and Moto Guzzie's own part number 2715-3085 will also work, but I can't verify them. I used this UFI filter a couple times and it's worked well. What you're going to need the 17mm bolt for is to undo that right there. That's the drain plug. Now it has a magnetic end on it. And so that magnetic end will pick up little metal pieces that are on it. So that's a good reason to take it out when you do it, even though you wouldn't technically need to, just to make sure you haven't got any metal pieces. This is where this little bucket I made to collect the waste oil fits just under. What I did is I cut off the bottom of a Rock's bottle so it fit under there easily. Now remember, if you're loosening it, the entire bike is hot and the oil is also hot. The oil. There you go. And we'll just let that drain out for a few minutes. So if you have dropped it into the oil, you have to, get a glove or something and dig it out of there, because remember, the oil's a little hot. Anyway, this is what it looks like. You see this little magnet at the end? So you want to check to see if there's any particles, because there is, and you know there's something wrong, especially if you've done this a couple times before on your bike and there's never been any. There isn't any on there now, but of course you wipe it clean anyway. And then you put this back in, and then it will go take off. You see that bolt right into there? That's where the oil filter is, and we'll take it off next. 13mm, you can see that it's recessed. It's pretty hard to get a socket in there, although they haven't moved around it. It's really only an M8 by 105mm bolt. You can actually purchase some of those as Allen heads, which would probably be a better replacement if you have it. But the other thing to notice is, you see how they line up straight with the fins? But right here, if you look, there's a little wing that fits out and fits over this one, and also on this side there's a little wing that fits out over. So that's when that drops out, that's the way it has to go back in. You don't want those little wings sticking to this side. It'll be in there backwards. So you want to make sure you get it in correctly so it goes in smoothly. Get one of these offsets in there, and I'm going to use particularly a deep one so you get below this pipe because it's still a little bit warm. Will work as well. But if it is, it's going to have to be pretty thin because you can see it just barely fits up in there without hitting these side walls. But they have cut it a little bit bigger so you can get a socket in there. So anyway, you just unscrew that and put that bucket under there. So you can see as you start to unscrew that, even though you drained it out from the bottom, you're still going to get more oil out of the oil filter. So place that under it, unscrew it a little bit until it starts dripping out, and then just let it leak out, and then you can continue on. Maybe it's okay. So now we're going to see this thing actually dropping out of there. You can kind of see it. It's going to come right out. It's going to dip a little bit there. And there it is. We'll take a look at this here. You're going to want to see is the spring is pointing down into this bottom cap. So the spring points to the bottom. And there's your big bolt. See how that spring points to the bottom? That's how it goes. And that's how the new one's going to go back in. And just make sure that everything is clean. Should be, but we'll take a check. Just to, rub it all nice with a new oil filter and just plug it back in. You see, its filter's been put back in. The lips here have been aligned correctly. As you can see, I put in the new Allen bolt rather than the hex bolt. Put in the new one with a hex head. It's a 8mm by 105mm. And the next thing, of course, you do is you make sure that you tighten the drain plug, and then come around here to the filler plug, grab your funnel, and that long tube should get around the head here. Take this out, put a 1.5 quart in, screw the dipstick filler plug back in, and start it up. Run it for a couple minutes until it circulates all the oil, and then take this back out and check it again, and do whatever minor adjustments you may need to do to get it between the low mark and the full.